Good morning. It is Ginny, Tim, and Eli from DS Tech in the beautiful Upper Peninsula of Michigan. We are going to share with you today Tim actually, because he was the guy that went to the event. Tim's biggest takeaways from IT Nation Security. And he's got quite the list here, so it'd be interesting to find out what he found out that's new out there in the cybersecurity field, which we do. So, speaking of that, make sure you go to our website and sign up for our newsletter so that you can learn all different kinds of things that we learn. And then plus, I don't know, the last one I sent some productivity tips. I even sent some beach tips because I had some.
Right.
Oh, there you go.
I had some
I need to
hardware.
wear sunscreen.
Right? Yeah,
Yes.
me too. But no, it wasn't like that. It was actually I found some devices that were like sandproof and waterproof and cool. So you would find that on my newsletter. If you did not get that newsletter, email us at security@dstech.net and let me know, and I'll be sure that you get that copy. Okay. Anyway, so what were your biggest takeaways from that event? Oh, and by the way, I'm sorry, but go to the last video because we were live with Tim and Josh. They were talking about the event and the people that they were seeing, and it was pretty cool. Anyway.
So for me,
It
when
is
I went to this event, there's so much to take in. It's hard to know where to even start. So what I did is I would look at all the different events, the topics, and I just picked ones that I personally felt I needed a gap. Like for me, I didn't know the cyber insurance that well. So when I went to some of these different talks and features, it was about the cyber insurance, how it's becoming and changing, and I'll get to that in a little bit, the top industries and things like that. And so that was really good for me to educate myself on that and to be able to bring that back to our customers or clients and educate our team on that kind of stuff as well. A lot of the actual individual vendor product, it wasn't as mind-breaking to me because we're already dealing with Huntress Labs and ThreatLocker and some of the best in the industry security software that I get to play with every day. So it wasn't anything new and life-shattering there for me, but it was still neat to see like some of the competition and what else is coming out there, and maybe kind of do that as well. So but for me, it was more educating myself on the insurance aspect of it and the policy that is going to be driving a lot of the industry over the next few years. So kind of going into that, a few years ago, cyber insurance was very easy to get. Anyone could pretty much just sign up and you get a policy. They made the joke at the convention. It was like the Oprah Winfrey show. You get a policy, check under your chair. You have an insurance policy. And they were just handing them out left and right. The problem was they were doing poor security practices. So it was almost like you're giving
the customers who were buying the insurance were.
It'd be like you're giving a bunch of car insurance to a bunch of teenage drivers with bad driving. So you're going to collect out. You're not going to really make out on that game in the long run. So there was a lot of payouts happening where in 2020 they actually had it was 72%. Was a loss ratio in the insurance industry because they were just getting hit with all these claims. And so they started implementing it. Now, if you want us to insure you, you have to meet these minimum standards with your computer or your requirements. So that started to drive, I guess, some of the policies we've been talking about for 20 years to our customers that are kind of maybe hesitant to change, or if it's not broken, why change and move it that way. And so
But now they're having to.
They're kind of having to, if they want to keep their policy next year, you're going to have to meet these requirements. So the minimum, so I guess the biggest key takeaway to show that this is working is in 2020, there was a 72% loss ratio. Well, when they came out in 2022, 2 years later, that number had dropped to 45%. So it's almost half, which kind of shows that the stuff they were forcing them to do has been working because they're not getting as much claims and much loss because the practices they're putting in place are actually more secure.
But it's still in the red.
Still in the red. And
That's true.
I mean, it is a business, so.
Yep.
You got to give them that as much as I complain about insurance.
So,
right? I mean, it is a business.
The biggest things,
Sorry.
No, that's fine. So currently the carriers, are looking for I guess you could say 5 key takeaway things. They're looking for multi-factor and everything. So that's when you type in your password, you get the secondary code or rotating codes, things like that.
Or 3.
Yeah, or 3-factor, 4-factor.
Or 4-factor. You don't have to do yours 3 times?
Not quite 3 times.
No, when I log into our main software, I have to do it 3 times.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Segregated backups, EDR, MDR, and patching, and there's kind of the standard base layer that we have now. Well, they're actually going into the future here. They're going to be requiring email filtering, 24/7 EDR, which is endpoint defense and response. So basically, you have software installed on your computers to check things like that. No local admins on your computers, which is a big thing that a lot of smaller shops still tend to do, where they want to install software, so they want to have the ability to type in their own stuff and hit yes.
That's why I can't install anything.
Not anymore. Yeah, no, 'cause, you have to
I
get
see.
permission first, and so
Yep.
we have solutions
That all
in
went out
place
the
with
window.
Threat Locker where they can type in a message requesting it, and then you
I
can
can see
approve
why,
it,
though.
things like that.
Yeah.
And then some sort of formal vulnerability management, whether you're getting scans, making sure you're updating your OS, all that kind of stuff to make sure things are up to date, having some sort of plan in place that you're continually checking, not just like once a year. That's going to be kind of the next push. And I'm sure once we get down those next 4, they're going to just keep adding more and more security requirements, especially depending on the industry and the size and the scope and all of that as well. So just staying ahead of the game. If you have DS Tech, chances are you have all these things already taken care of with your company, so you're well ahead of it there. However, we like to stay ahead of it and make sure you're prepared for the next big change in that. So my biggest takeaway was going to the different insurance ones. Some of the other takeaways, the highest risk that are getting hit the most right now that they're seeing with the insurance is municipalities are actually number 1. Number 2 would be your payment processors, financial institutions. Schools is number 3, with health court 4, and then small businesses are 5. So those are the top 5 that are getting hit across the board. And there's other ones, law firms, engineering, manufacturing, things like that, but they're not as high up the list that are not getting hit as much because some of those other ones already might have better security policies in place depending.
Yeah, and as they get better security policies,
the hackers are going to go to the next easier
exactly.
target.
They're just going to find the easiest
On to
one.
the next one.
Yeah, if they give enough time, they can get into any target, just like a thief's going to break into any house, but they're about trying to be efficient. So if they see this house has a fence and 2 pit bulls and all this other stuff, and the house over here has got nothing, and they're just going to go
The
to
door's
easy
open?
Yeah, they're gonna go to the easy target.
No
So it's all about making yourself look too much of a hardened threat. They'll go somewhere else. So. That was kind of the biggest one there. Another big key takeaway at these events is just the networking ability. I got to meet with our representatives of some of the software, like the Threat Locker and Huntress Labs, Cyber CNS, which we use for our vulnerability scanning and things like that. So we like to meet with them and actually build that relationship, maybe kind of, hey, this hasn't been working or this is going well, give them some direct feedback. Sometimes is always helpful. And then meeting the other new charter companies that DS Tech's now part of, the other opcos and things like that we're meeting with them. And
I think that's super cool.
That is so
because
cool.
because
So many
I
names
was
you see out there too.
talking
that
to
you
Josh.
Put a face to now.
Yeah, put a face to it. But then we were talking with the actual programmer, so he's making changes to the software per our recommendations too.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
Yep, to meet
Really
those people
neat.
and actually see them. And then, New Charter as a whole is very, with ConnectWise are very good partners. So when we have thoughts and features that, hey, this should be implemented, it'll make our jobs way easier, they actually listen to us and implement it. And it's a very good partnership that we have going on with that group. So being able to meet all those people and discuss it in real time in an hour meeting, you can get more ideas thrown back and forth than you could in a week's worth of emails. So it's a really good building exercise and all that kind of stuff there. So
Yeah, that's super cool.
but that was my main thing, was just the insurance of that. Some of the other extra nerdy stuff. I attended one that was about, the title was Next Generation Threat Hunting Using Algorithmic Genomic Databases. So
What?
Wow,
so
say that 10 times
I'm like,
fast.
that's what I want to go to. But
What?
basically the idea is that every computer virus, when it boils down to code and doing something on your
Tim.
computer,
I love nerds. Just saying. Anyway.
basically any program is ones and zeros, the concept
Yep.
of bytes. So that's when your program does something, whether it's written in C++ or COBOL or some crazy language or Java, any programming language, it's all doing something at the machine level. So essentially what they're trying to do is build a DNA database of every malware that exists based on what it's doing at the machine level. So it doesn't matter what it looks like, if it's running on Windows, on a Mac, on Linux, it's still doing the same thing on a computer, ones and zeros. So they can take that base, like the DNA of it,
The genetic code.
the genetic
Wow.
code of it. 'Cause most malware
Wow.
is copied, and people are lazy. They're not creating a new malware out of the blue. They're taking
And sure,
malware
why would they?
and changing it
Right.
a little bit and affecting it. So the idea is to build a
Interesting.
giant database. Because the biggest thing in our industry right now are 0 days, meaning it's not been seen before. It hasn't been found in the wild. So there's no, the idea of downloading an antivirus update and then you're protected. Well, what if it hasn't been into that update yet? So the idea is that something could be new in the wild that's never been seen before, but its DNA is a 90% match to the WannaCry virus or some other virus. And so now we know that
That
this
is cool.
is bad and it can block it
Interesting.
before it's even found and created an IOC for it.
You don't have to get a guinea pig.
So, I mean, we have certain things in place, like with Threat Locker, if you have that zero trust, it can still prevent malware and stuff from spreading, but you can't get the identifier real quick. So that was something that's kind of neat that for me as a nerd, I like that idea. But again, that's more edge case, probably going to be coming in the next few years. For that
Wow.
kind of stuff.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, it's just
It's
kind
kind of crazy to think of where things are going. I mean,
Yeah.
Oh, that's-
as everything gets more connected, it's only going to get more. The idea of having a firewall in an office that's protecting your computers is kind of old too. A big thing talking about was SASE, which is basically securing all the edge. So like securing your Office 365 accounts, because you might be logging in from home or from the office. All your different accounts that are on the web, you want to be able to secure those and monitor those just as much as your firewall is protecting your computers in your office, because there's a lot of places that are fully remote now even, so the idea of a firewall protecting your computers is an old kind of thought. You still need to have that, but then it's more about protecting all the user accounts, all the integrations, all the connections as everything gets more connected. And that's what's going to be into the next 5-10 years.
so yeah, I know
security-wise.
a lot of people will remote into their networks using their home computers and home devices, right?
Yep.
But here, what I do is I actually have a system that's like a system I
Provided.
have here.
Yep.
I literally unplug my home system and plug in my work system, so it's like I'm here. Does that help?
It can help, yeah, because usually most places you want to have a company provided system, so we
Yeah.
can have the security software and all that on there. And then depending, I don't know if we had you set up to where you just log in and you connect into like the AVD.
No,
stuff.
I literally turn it on and it's just like I'm at work. I put
Okay.
in my password and
Yeah,
it's my
because it'll
desktop.
have all the security software on it just
Yeah.
as it is at home. Yep, and you'd be good to go.
So I'm not using any of my home devices.
Yeah, no, I have a separate
So,
device completely for work that nothing personal uses it as well.
Exactly.
And that's a good
Yeah.
mentality to have
Interesting.
for sure.
Because I was just talking to somebody else about that, because they have a bunch of employees who do log in from home, and I'm like, the way we do it at DS Tech, and I'm like, and it's probably more secure just because of who we are,
Yeah.
right? But I'm
People
just
using
saying.
I mean, you can do things from home where if you had a VPN and you tunneled into a certain session they gave you
True.
and things like that too, but then your base layer could still be compromised,
Yeah.
so that's why we like to have, DS Tech issued devices when you're working from home. So it has all the security software on it just for the nature of our business.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a small business and you have employees, working from home, working in the office, the best bet would be to get everyone their own work device specific for work that has the security software on it, so they're not leaving any sort of vulnerabilities for them into the system.
Interesting.
Because
We could talk about this forever.
the number one
Yes.
compromise
saying.
vector usually is
Absolutely.
through like a random employee. Usually it's not like a security person. They're going to go after, a salesperson or a new hire or someone that might be, they're not thinking secure all the time and they're just going through the motions, and that's the way in. Or the one home computer will let them into the network, and then from there now they get access to everything. So
And everyone makes mistakes, even
we're all human.
even
That's-
veteran employees. I'm just
Yeah.
saying,
I made a mistake too. So I would-
right?
The biggest thing is to learn from it, not just get hard-headed. That's
Yeah,
the
for
biggest-
sure.
That's the biggest advice
Or
I
to
give.
hide it.
Yeah.
Hide it.
Yeah.
Don't
That's
hide
the
it.
worst thing you can do. Right?
Right? Yeah, don't hide it. Just
Yeah.
tell, like, oh, I did.
They're gonna find out anyway.
Clicked
You
it.
might as well
Click the
let them know,
link.
and then just yes.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. I'm so glad that you and Josh go to these events,
Mhm.
and Eric does too. I think you do. Do you go to any yet?
Every once in a while. I went
Every
to a
once in a
credit
while.
union
Yeah,
event.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, it's really cool to learn all this stuff and see the faces out there. So if you have any questions, drop them below this video. We would love to answer them. And make sure you sign up for our newsletter. Go back to the previous video if you want to see Tim and Josh on site at
Yep.
the event, because we interviewed them over Teams. That was kind of cool. So is that it?
That's about it, I think. Nothing too crazy.
Except for the genetic code. That was like,
Yeah.
that's a little crazy.
Well, because that's the hardest thing with technology now is hackers. They'll take the code and they'll, if you're driving from here to Walmart, it's a 2-minute drive or whatever it is. But what the hackers do essentially is they're like, let's go to Danforth, let's take the detour around Cornell, let's go over here, come back, and then now we're going to go over to Walmart. So they try to hide what they're
Harder
doing
to
with their
trace.
tracks. But when it finally boils down to what it's doing on the computer and the ones and zeros, it all looks the same no matter what. And that's
Yeah,
what they're using
that's-
to make the fingerprint
It's
DNA.
cool.
I
That's a
don't
good way to describe it too.
Yeah.
Anyway, make it a great day. We'll see you next time.